Hey, I'm Nick Von Brack, and this is the Record Podcast. Back with an episode post-Thanksgiving. Hope you had a good holiday and ate all of the food ever. This week's episode is a good one, and it's different than how we usually do it. For the previous episodes, I've been interviewing musicians and people in the music industry about what they do and what they're dedicating their lives to musically. This week's episode is a bit of a crossover. I interview Casey Bates, the producer. He's been a part of albums from Fear Before the March of Flames, Heavy Heavy Low Low, Portugal The Man, Chiodos, the list goes on. And with this episode, we both interviewed each other. So we went back and forth with questions talking about his life as an engineer, my life being in Dr. Manhattan, back and forth, and all kinds of random good stories from recording with each other and our history going far back. So this week's episode is the first half of my interview with Casey Bates, and next week I'll post the second half. And if you're interested in Casey Bates' interview with me, without all the other hubbub, you can go over to the Casey Bates podcast. He'll be posting that in the near future. Also, I want to say thanks to all you for listening. Thanks for supporting the show and sharing any links to our page. I really appreciate that. And if you could do it in the future, that'd be awesome too. So here's this week's episode, the first half of my interview with Casey Bates. Yeah, so how was that show?
It was really good, actually.
Was it their show or did they open up for someone?
Did we just start?
Yeah, let's just do it. Fuck it.
It was, so I saw Money Pit last night, and they were main support for a band called American Island, and they are a band that I worked with years ago. They used to be called Man Without Wax.
Yeah, Spencer's in that band.
Yeah, how do you know Spencer?
Well, as you don't recall, he was one of him and I can't remember his name. You had a couple guys coming in and out helping like run the boards or learn like Pro Tools and stuff. So it was Spencer and it's killing me. He plays drums for Acceptance now.
Oh, Nick.
Yeah. Is that his name?
Yeah. Wait. No, sorry. Acceptance now. That's Jared.
Jared. Okay, yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, so Jared and Spencer were like floating in and out, helping out with Jam Dreams. So I don't know if we ever played with Man Without Wax, but after we recorded Jams, we talked about doing it. So I don't remember if we ever actually did, but yeah, I remember those guys.
That's really cool. Oh man, this is gonna be good because I'm like struggling to remember everything. So
well, between the two of us, we should probably be able to pull together like 5 to 6 memories. So
we'll put something together here.
So American Island headlined.
Yeah, so they've got they did a record with John Goodmanson, who's awesome. He's also a Seattle guy. I don't know why they didn't do it with me. I mean,
I would take offense to that if I were you.
I know, right? I created that band basically. I feel like it's all me, but no, they were fantastic. They sounded amazing, and awesome. Money Pit was great. It was actually probably the best I've seen from them so far. They've only played a handful of shows, and then a couple local bands were the support. But yeah, it was like it's just crazy seeing Bobby and Nick out there playing again because they were in Gatsbys American Dream out here, and every time I go to one of their shows now, it's like a reunion because you get all these people coming back out, and I'm like, man, I need to get more involved back in the Seattle scene. I miss it.
I think you're going to get pulled in whether or not you want to.
I hope so. I don't know.
So if you go back in your mind from the Money Pit shows now to Gatsby's playing back then, is it like the same thing? Is it the same kind of feeling? Or is it, you can tell it's different, like this is a different band?
It feels different to me. Like live, it feels very different. Gatsby's, I guess I didn't really expect it to be, but with the Money Pit stuff, it's a lot more chill than Gatsby's was. Even if you listen to the record and it doesn't really feel that way, it really comes across that way live, and it surprised me. Like even the first time I saw him, like the tempo of the songs and whatnot, it just doesn't. Gatsby's was just running all over the stage and just going nuts and jumping into the crowd, and there was those. I don't know. The song just had more intensity to them, but that's not a negative thing at all. Like just this new stuff's just a little more laid back, and I don't know if grown up's the right word, but
grown up rock. That sounds like something that'd be like classic rock. You're calling that or something.
I know.
I'm sure they'd love to hear that.
Well, we're all in our 30s now. Are you 30 yet?
I am. I'm 31 in a month, so take that.
Man, I got to find some young kids to start working with again. I'm just gonna be that
Yeah,
old
you can't
dude.
keep kicking around these senior citizens anymore. You're not
I
gonna
know.
get any money out of it.
You guys are all over the hill, man. I gotta find out what's new and cool.
Well, I was over the hill even when we weren't. I mean, I was in a band with guys. Well, Adam is the same age as me, but the other two, they were young pups. So I was always on the outskirts saying, "You damn kids."
How old are they?
They're really not that much younger. Matt's 2 years younger, and Andrew's 3 or 4.
Oh, Andrew's okay. So Andrew's the one.
He's the
like,
baby.
he's entering his late 20s now.
Yeah. So when we started, like the first tour we went on, he was like 19 or 20. Like anytime we tried to play a bar, I remember it was an issue.
And you guys are all still together, still doing Dr. Manhattan.
To this day, we're practicing right now. We're in the
Really?
middle of it. No.
Oh, you got me so excited.
No. We so like last year-ish, we put, or no, might have been more than that, but around a year ago, we put out an EP called Bolo Yodo, and that was like 4 or 5 songs, and we did some shows, did like a little weekend tour, and then that was pretty much it. We weren't planning on doing much. We just Matt had some awesome song ideas, so we're just like, fuck it, let's record them. These songs are too good, so we just did it, and then did a little touring, and then that was pretty much it.
And I found out about that EP yesterday.
Yep. Yeah, I sent you the link. Yep, it was very well marketed and publicized.
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, I was listening to the EP this morning, and it's like the culmination of Dr. Manhattan.
We wanted a little bookend because as we were talking about it, like, we started with an EP, did 2 full lengths, and now we'll just end with an EP and just button that up. Just a little end that chapter.
You're talking about the Are You Bald EP?
No. Oh, you listened to that EP? Are you so?
No. I listened to that EP because that's on iTunes, but then I listened to Bolo Yodo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Are You Bald? I always forget about that because that wasn't really like a proper EP. That was our first EP. Was called For the Lonely, Less the Wiser, and that was like, Claim Should Echo, Minds Like Ours, like the first serious recording we did, and then that was what we like shopped around and gave to people and sent to the world. And then the Are You Bald thing was like, we had signed a Vagrant and the self-titled was done, but they wanted to sit on it for a year, and in the meantime they're like, well, let's put out something. So they took a song, Breath of an Epoch, off of that first EP, and then maybe a couple self-titled songs. I don't even remember what's on it, but they just kind of took a little like handful of songs just to put out to give to the world.
Yeah, I thought, maybe I'm wrong, but wasn't you that Are You Bald line, didn't it use to end in an exclamation point?
Yeah, there was there was a lot of things in the band that, looking back at now, I'm trying to figure out like what the punchline was, and I think that was kind of the punchline. Is that
I thought it was hilarious. Well, no, on iTunes it's Are You Bald with a question mark.
Oh, see, I don't remember that. I thought it was with an exclamation. We put out something that had with an exclamation point.
Yeah, there was was it in the self-titled artwork or something?
Yeah, yep.
That's where I remember reading that. I thought that was the funniest thing.
Basically, a good summarization of the band was just like jokes and music that our friends and bands that we looked up to would potentially like, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Like outside of that, it was, who knows who's gonna like this. But if we made Casey Bates laugh, or we impressed Chris Conley, that was enough. I mean, that was pretty much that was the peak of it. So would you say, all right, so between me and Chris, who would you have wanted to impress more? To me, honestly, now it's turned back to your podcast. Now it's your interview.
I'm wondering, what I was thinking when we were doing this? I'm like, this should just be both. Like,
that's fine. However we do it.
What I was thinking is like, let's just do one big podcast here, and then I'll edit my version of it, and then you can edit yours, and then we'll just put them out at the same time.
Mine's just gonna be one question. It's gonna be the first one. Like, are we doing this? And that was my interview with Casey Bates. That's just gonna be it. So,
this actually could be good because we should just. I mean, I don't know if you don't want to do it. I don't care. But I could just then at the beginning I could say, hey, you could also listen to this again on Nick's podcast.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I'm trying to edit these as little as possible anyway, so I'm just gonna put all this shit on here.
Oh, see, I edit the shit out of them.
I will not be censored.
Oh, you're going to be. I'm gonna take a bunch of words of yours out of order, and so it recreates you saying something really nice about me.
I'm gonna smear your podcast. I'm gonna be like, you can go listen to the censored, polite bullshit version, or you can listen to the real, uncensored, uncut version on my podcast.
Dude, let's okay. Well, I don't know. Let's just keep going.
We'll
What do you?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I mean, maybe you can ask me a question, and then I'll ask you a question or something.
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll field yours. So who do we want to impress more? To be honest, and I could probably answer for all of us. I don't know that there was a direct line, because I think a lot of people we knew and a lot of people that liked our band were blown away by the Saves the Day thing, but we didn't grow up on them. We didn't like.
Oh, that's right.
We didn't have a love affair with them. We like the first like more punk album I'd ever gotten was a Vagrant compilation called The Year on the Streets, and Saves the Day was on it, but I flocked more towards I think the first compilation had like Blink-182 and stuff on it, but then the next one had Trio and Saves the Day and Get Up Kids, and I focused more on Get Up Kids and Trio, and then Stay What You Are. I do remember like getting into that album, but you know, when we toured with Saves the Day, like when I was like, oh yeah, I'm a Saves the Day fan, then I saw the people that came to their shows. I was like, oh no, I'm not. Like these are diehard, you know, fans. These are legit fans.
I thought you were saying it like, look at these douchebags.
No, not at all. Like I was like, yeah, I like them, but then I saw, you know, all these people in the crowd singing every single word. I was like, oh yeah, I think this is amateur hour. Like these are the pros. But we really fell in love with Saves the Day when we toured with them, because that's when we found out about In Reverie, and I think that's when I got into Sound the Alarm and like the later stuff, because those two albums, those are the ones that I play the most and am in love with the most. I actually do really love Daybreak too, but
I love Daybreak.
Yeah, Sound the Alarm and Stay What You Are the two, like, no, I'm sorry, Sound the Alarm and In Reverie are the ones that really, really get me going. Did I ever tell you my Daybreak story, by the way?
No, tell me.
So, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit, because this has to do with, you know, me leaving the band and stuff. But so after I left the band, I went to school, and just as I had gotten there too, Daraja and Manny from Save the Day left, and that was their drummer and bassist, and
right.
because they were splitting duties between Save the Day and Glassjaw, so they went to Glassjaw. And I texted or emailed Chris, and I was like, hey, you know, if you have like a winter or summer tour that you need to fill in, let me know. I'd be glad to help out. And then he shoots me back and he's like, yeah, like we'll figure it out. How about February? And I'd just gone down to school, so that's like right in the middle of the semester. I'm like, oh shit, all right. So I emailed professors, and they're actually all on board. They're like, yeah, we'll figure it out, we'll make this happen, like, you know, you can do your homework online or however we want to do it. So totally on board to do it. And I think the tour was a co-headliner with Newfound Glory, and then Chris got back to me and was like, well, what if you were to join the band for real?
Oh.
And I was like, oh shit. Like I just slouched in my chair.
Well, you're gonna break people's hearts right now, because there's not a good ending to this story then.
No, there isn't. And the only time I've told this story publicly, because I've only told friends, but the friends that I told all basically hated me. They're like, you fucking idiot, are you kidding me? You didn't join Saves the Day? Like, this is the biggest mistake you ever made. But like, without even thinking about it, I said to Chris, I can't. Like, I didn't even like process it, just like I just spewed it out. Because then after I thought about it, I was like, how am I going to do, like, I just left the band that I dedicated like my heart and soul to, and I said I couldn't do this anymore. Like, I was missing being home. Like, I wanted to pursue other things. And then like they find out a month later I joined another band. Like, I feel like that would have been the biggest slap in the face to all three of them.
Yeah, but it saves the day.
I know.
Screw them.
I regret it now. It was the biggest mistake ever made. But
do you really?
No. But so how this ties back is, so then I heard Daybreak. That was the album I would have joined them for. I would have recorded on it, and I was like, shit, this album is so good. Like, I would have loved to play on it. But the guy they got, Spencer, is such a good drummer that I'm kind of almost glad I didn't, because he did such good stuff on it. Like, I was like, I don't know that I could have served this any better than he did. He actually played on Warped Tour with this pop singer Charlotte Sometimes when we were on Warped Tour, so I got to see him play all the time. He's just one of those like solid drummers that can jump into any kind of band and just kill it. So when I found out he was playing with them, I was like, yeah, Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a step down for me. That's a huge step up. So
You would have been awesome for that band, though.
thank you. And I think the other thing I was struggling with was it would have been the first time I'd ever been in a band that I played songs that weren't mine, and I don't know that, or that I was a part of writing, and I don't know that I really would have like struggled with it, but I think it just would have been weird, at least for a little bit. I mean, who knows? I could have played the first show and been like, "Fuck it, this is awesome," but.
No, I think Chris would have let you get in on that songwriting, just take over.
Yeah. I could have really done some things with that band.
Be the really new face that saves the day.
Yeah. but yeah, that's my Daybreak story. But I without even making that connection to it, I love that album. That is such a good like the first song is, I always think, I mean, because it's a long 10-minute song, I always think of it as like the decline. That's like their decline.
Do you remember do you remember him playing the demo for us? For that song?
No.
So he had that 12-minute long demo, and he had it when he was doing Jam Dreams with us, and he played it for us in the upstairs of that big old house I used to own.
You don't live in that house anymore?
No.
That was a good house.
Bands trashed that place. I had to get out of there.
Oh no. That's a bummer. No, I do not remember. Actually, I do remember hanging out upstairs and listening to music, and there was a dance party one night. But
I actually have all those pictures too. I got they're all black and white. I got tons of them. Good. All of us playing beer pong and stuff. But
yep, I'll post those.
Yeah, he played us that song. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And I don't know. I'm super excited to see what Saves the Day comes up with next. I hope he's got something in the works.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. That guy never stops.
And I had Dan, so I got a good relationship with Equal Vision, and they're on Equal Vision now Records.
Right.
And Dan Sandshaw, he's manages the label. I'm not sure his official title, but he kind of offhandedly he's like it'd be really cool to get you in with Saves the Day on their new record. And I'm like, yeah.
No, I'm good.
That would be really cool. We haven't talked about it since. I don't know if he was just trying to make me feel good, but it was.
For new stuff or for the last album they put out?
The newest, whatever they're doing next.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
and you have a relationship with him because of Jam Dream, so I don't think it's completely outlandish to assume that could happen.
Well, and I was thinking too, with all this, I'd like to get him on my podcast too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you talked to him about getting on yours?
I tried. I tried to hit him up. I don't know if I have a number for him that's the right number, and I hit him up on Twitter. And so who knows? Maybe we'll figure it out in a few months or so. I don't know how busy he is. He's all over the place. So hopefully I'll get him on here at some point.
Yeah.
You'll probably get him first, and I'll be jealous, and I'll listen.
I'll be like, all right, Chris, you can be on my podcast with one stipulation: you are not allowed to go on Nick Vombrak's podcast.
I'm sure he'd be heartbroken. Oh, I just simply couldn't.
He's like, that fucker didn't join my band.
Yeah. I wonder if I'm sure he remembers, but that was such now there are 2 albums since then. Or no, Daybreak and then the new one. Okay, yeah, so.
I really like that new one. What's it called again?
I think it's self-titled, isn't it?
I think it is. It's got the grapefruit on the cover.
Yeah, that's a solid album too. Some good shit on there. I mean, he doesn't write bad songs in my opinion, but yeah, I think it's good. All right, let me throw some questions at you now. Let me get a good one. All right, so when we recorded with you, obviously, so you and the Newsham family are intertwined, but there was definitely this big family feel being there. So I'm wondering, what was like for you growing up? Do you have brothers and sisters? What were parents like? Yeah, let's do it. Let's
way back.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get in the way back machine. Let's do the thing.
I have a younger sister. I think she's about 2 years younger than me. But yeah, my parents are still married after I couldn't tell you. It's got to be getting close to 40 years now.
Mazel.
Yeah. And yeah, super. I mean, we're together for every holiday. Try to see each other as much as we can. My wife's family, who is Brooke Bates now, but her last name used to be Newsham. She's Nick's sister.
And I will, and let's just do it right now. How was that weird at all? Dating your buddy's sister? No, okay, because I could think that could go poorly. I never got the impression that it has at all. But I just wondered if when you first started dating him, Nick's like, really?
No, Well, I'll tell you what, like, because I've known Nick forever, and
Right.
lead singer in a band, traveling the country, doing the lead singer thing, and
Sure.
and I just, I kind of, I think it, along the way, I was like, I don't know about his sister, like, because I didn't know, I kind of assumed that, and it's a stupid assumption, but I'm like, maybe they're like the same person, kind of a thing,
Right.
and I was like, I don't know, but like they're like the most opposite people in the world. It's crazy, and so. I don't know. We started hanging out, and Nick was the one that really pushed it. I don't know if he wanted free studio time or what, but he was just like, he was all about it. He's like, Case is a good guy, and he talked me up to her, and
what a sweetheart Nick is.
Yeah,
we should have him on this podcast sometime.
Yeah, he'd love to, but no, and her parents are, she has a real, like, where we live. So where I live now is in East Seattle, in a town like called Bellevue.
Isn't that, were you living in Bellevue before when we went out there?
No, I was living in North Seattle.
Okay.
And so now I'm in like the tech sector. So like I live like 2 miles from like the big like Microsoft home base. And
okay.
There's like Amazon and Google here. So I'm in this like, so she grew up in this area here in East Seattle, and it's extremely wealthy and nice. Well, the weird thing is I think for a lot of people that grow up like right here, you don't have that like, I got to get out of here and go to the big city thing. Like
right.
you're kind of in one of the best areas in the country, and so it's this interesting thing I've noticed where families that start here, they pretty much stay here. So like her entire extended family is within like 3 miles of us. Like
wow.
I'm talking like all the aunts and uncles, grandparents, brothers, sisters. Like when we have get-togethers, it's like 50 people, and
Damn.
Where I'm like, I grew up on a small island, 2.5 hours north of Seattle. And you were like, I'm getting out of here. As soon as I graduate high school, I am gone, and everyone just scatters everywhere, all over the country. And so, I don't know, it's really cool being here. We have very family oriented, and we're always doing stuff together.
Yeah. Something that I'll always hold near and dear to my heart is that damn Newsham cheese dip that you had at the party. Whatever the hell is in that thing, like, we were all about that. It was at a couple, I think it was at, when we first got there, I think we had like a little party, and right before we left, we had a little party, and we were just destroying that stuff.
That's interesting, man. That's like, what, 5 years ago? You just can't let it go.
No, I've never had anything like it. My heart belongs with it.
I'll have Brooke put together the recipe for you and send it over.
That's a Christmas miracle. I would love that. You think I'm joking? I'm serious about it.
You just haven't stopped thinking about it.
Yeah, jam dreams, whatever, but that cheese dip.
I got Chris Conley here producing my record. Give me that cheese dip.
Well, really, this podcast was going to be a cheese dip oriented podcast, but I figured, I don't know how many
the end game was for me to reveal what the recipe is.
Yeah, I wanted to get like 30 to 40 podcasts done and then have you on, and then just that be the final one. But we can just wrap this thing up today, get the recipe, and just be done with it.
Oh man! All right, so wait, it's my turn to ask you a question now.
Yeah.
I don't really have any questions like necessarily prepared, but I'm like really curious about your band getting signed to Vagrant, and the kind of like the creation of self-titled.
Yeah.
Like, did you guys, now, if I remember right, Vagrant signed you guys after you'd recorded the record, right?
Yeah. Album was all done when they signed us.
And okay, so you did an EP before that, right?
Yep. But I think I misspoke earlier. We actually went to Vagrant with the finished album. So the EP, that was like us starting the band and passing it around town and to bands and stuff, and to maybe some like local labels. But when we were shopping labels, that was like, here's the finished product. What do you think of it?
And it wasn't the finished. It was,
no,
it ended up getting remixed.
Right. It was finished in that we had recorded it all, and it was like, we're looking to remix it and stuff. But this is what these are what the songs sound like.
How did you approach any other labels, or did any other labels approach you guys?
Yeah. So it was our manager, Mike Bakta, who managed a couple of other Chicago bands. He was dishing it around. What it really came down to was Vagrant and Epic Records. And we met with so Dan Gill from Vagrant we met with, and he was super nice. We went to I think Giordano's or Lou Malnati's in Chicago and got some deep dish and had a good old talk with him. And then we met Andrew McGinnis and Pete Chiburga from Epic Records, and they came. I think we met Andrew at a local show, but Pete came out. We played like in bumfuck Illinois, like it was like an old elementary school that was abandoned, and they had shows in. Like he came, he really like made the effort to come see us, and the instant we saw him, like our manager was like, "Oh, and this is Pete Chiburga," and we were standing on the stage, and I think I just jumped on him, like just full body slammed him, like just wanted to make an impression right away, and he was just laughing, and we had a good talk with them. And what it came down to was like, we were afraid. Our big concern was that, well, if we go to Epic, that's that's a pretty, I don't know if it's technically a major, but in comparison, that's like a major label. And I think Modest Mouse was on Epic at the time. Like they had big hitters.
Yeah.
And we were just like, I think they were talking about doing like, multiple albums, like, 3, 4, 5 or something. And we were just afraid, the classic major label story. We'll do one album, it won't do well, and then we'll just get shelved. And we were like, well, in comparison, Vagrant seems smaller. Like they have bands that aren't as big and conceivably could grow us. And we were given the impression that, we know how to grow a band. And I think in hindsight, that might have been an reach to say that, but
yeah.
But that was the impression we were getting, because we're like, we're really small. Like this album isn't gonna, it's gonna be the people that we've toured to or played shows to will buy it, but no one outside of that area knows us. So our big concern was, we just don't want to get signed to a major and then nothing happened with it. So we went with Vagrant to hopefully circumvent that process and be grown and actually have a good steady career. And the Vagrant thing had a nice little bookend for me in my life, because like I said, the first like punk or like hard albums I'd ever heard, fast rock, were the Year on the Streets and Another Year on the Streets. So I was like, all right, I started with Vagrant, I'm getting signed to Vagrant, like this is like a dream in my life. Like to the other guys it was cool, and they were like, yep. I think at the time Murder by Death was on there, and I think Thrice just had got signed or were about to. So there was like bands that we liked, and it was interesting all around. But I think for me in my personal life, I was like, this is like a storybook. Like this is written perfectly. So we thought going with Vagrant was the the lesser of two evils, or what we thought would help sustain our career better.
Good call.
I almost choked. I mean, no, I hate to slag Vagrant at all, because I think in hindsight it was both of our faults that things didn't happen. Like I think on their end they were at a point of like they were signing bands that had already been established, so they basically didn't have to do a whole lot. Like they signed them, they gave them money, and
bands were coming to them.
Yeah, and it was like they sold 30,000 records, so this time they'll sell close to, if not a little more, a little less. So they kind of knew. But for us, I mean, I think we sold like 2,000 something albums at the time, and so it was like,
that's it, really?
Yeah, I think I remember a 2,000 number being in the mix, and probably 1,950 of them were from our like local release show. We probably just like destroyed locally, and then who knows otherwise. But I think a part of the problem was we didn't have like a chip on our shoulder, but we were like we watched band DVDs and looked up to bands that were funny and other bands liked, they had camaraderie with. So we wanted to be that. We wanted to be a band that other people liked and didn't do cheesy promotional pictures and like we'd look in alternative press in these magazines and see things and be turned off by it, and like we don't want to look like that. So I think Vagrant wanted us to play ball a little more, and like you should do these things, like this will help. And we were like, well, let's do it a cool way or a funny way, or like let's be a little tongue in cheek about it. And I think we just focused on that too much and thought, well, Vagrant they'll promote the music and we'll give it the quirkiness, and then that'll be a nice little package for people. And I think I don't know what people, aside from our music being just, all over the place genre-wise, I think they had a tough time pushing or putting us into a box for that. And then also just the way we were acting and being goofy. Like, I don't know that anyone could take us seriously. So I don't know how. I think at some point I actually talked to Dan from Vagrant. I want to interview him for this and actually get into that and be like, how big of a pain in the ass was it to promote our band, to like get us out there? Because it had to have been tough. And at one point they were talking about like radio play for Gunpowder, and we were like, okay, like let's do that thing, like let's do what it takes. And I know it's like, I don't know, $30,000 or something to go to radio, like it's a lot of money. So I think they were kind of hoping, oh well, if your album sells enough, then we can have the money to do that. And since it didn't, like they didn't really have an incentive to like want to just throw an unknown band on the radio or something. I mean, that's just my gathering of it.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, man, that it didn't take off. You know, Big Chomper to me was such a jam and such a that's the first track on the record. And it, like, the second I heard that song, I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, this is the coolest thing. I mean, so my history with you guys up until that point was that Johnny Minardi, who's my manager now, he worked at Fueled by Ramen. He ran his own label for a little while, but he had found you guys. I think he found you guys through maybe Bacta.
That could be. He came out to a show one time. We met Minardi. He's a good dude.
Yeah, and he sent the song along to Bobby Darling from Gatsby's, and you know, but I'm terrible with finding new music, so I kind of rely on my friends to just send me stuff, and Bobby sends me Big Chomper, and like I'm just like, whoa, this is I mean, I literally like, and even to this day, I'm like, that's like one of the best like first experiences I've ever had listening to any like song. Wow. It's like this.
Thank you.
Well, I grew up listening to punk rock, and you guys weren't punk rock, but you were like this like perfect meld of, you know, experimental cool shit, and there was a punk vibe to it, and this like, I still am a huge Phantom Planet fan, and there's just kind of like that lazy kind of I don't give a shit vocal in the beginning of Big Chomper, and it's like, I remember like hearing that song, and I just was on the internet like, who is this band? Like what, you know, like what's going on? And I ended up finding your producer, John Alvin, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and I emailed him, and I actually try to do this too. Whenever I hear a cool record that's like, you know, from an unknown band, I try to find like anyone involved. I try to email and be like, dude, this is awesome. So I emailed and I was like, this record is incredible. I'm like, you did such a, that song anyways, that's all I'd heard. And I was like, this is so good. And we emailed back a few times, and this is before I think you signed to Vagrant, because then
probably
I think it was quiet for a little while, and then the Vagrant thing happened. And I just heard through the grapevine, I don't remember how, but that the record was going to get remixed, and you know, I had been listening to John's mixes, and I was like, shit, I have got to be the one. If this is gonna get remixed, I was like, it has to be me that does this. I'm like, I know exactly what I wanted to, you know, like, and I don't know how I remember how I got in touch with you guys, but I got in touch with you guys, and hadn't you gone through several different mixers at this point?
Yeah,
test mixes.
The only one that I remember the name of is Sean Lopez, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he does a band with the singer of the Deftones, and like he's a pretty heavy hitter in mix, like, as he does a lot of mixing and stuff, but like we hadn't heard of him at the time, and he sent a mix of Big Chomper, and it was cool, and we heard 2 or 3 others, but yeah, we eventually got yours, and we're like, yeah, this feels right, let's go, Casey.
It was kind of one of those, like, for me, like, magical things that just doesn't happen all that often, where like I kind of just found out about you guys through in a weird way, and then, you know, fell in love with your band, and then I just like I knew I wanted to mix it, and then you guys liked my mix, and then it was like it was just off and running. It was such a cool period. And then I remember Bacta was like, yeah, we don't have any money for this.
So I have written down one question that I want to ask you, and we'll do it now because now it's been brought up. Have you ever been paid for anything that you've done for our band? Have you made $1 from us?
I did get paid to mix your self-titled.
Okay.
It was a very small amount of money. Like
the labor of love, Casey. A labor. No, of love.
I mean, honestly, I would have done it for free. Like it wouldn't. I wanted to do it so bad that it, you know, and I think the only reason, And that probably was the reason, because I remember Bacta was the one I was communicating with most of the time, and he just was like, "There's no money." He's like, "There's no money." And I don't know. I might have gotten $1,000 or something for the whole record. It was something like that.
To be honest, I'm surprised you got paid that much.
And that was on Vagrant. I mean, come on.
That was the thing. Like, when we got signed to Vagrant, like, we didn't think it was like old Moneybags was running, but we're like, this is a label with some good bands on it. Like, they probably have some money to like throw at us, and it never really felt like they did. Like, and it might have just been like timing, and I really don't know. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I just don't want to think they didn't give a shit about a band that they just signed. But like, it never felt like that was always what Bacta was telling us. Like, yeah, there's just no money. Like, oh, radio, yeah, there's just no money to do it. Oh, we got an offer to go to Europe. Yeah, we just don't have, like, it's gonna be expensive. I don't know if we can afford to do it. Like, we had to couch several cool things that we wanted to do because in the name of money.
You know, in my experience, I found that with a label, you know, when basically they're signing you and they're signing and they're going to release a record that you've already recorded yourself and paid for yourself. I don't know if they paid you for that record. I'm guessing no.
They did, actually. I don't remember how much it was, but they gave us some, but we had to pay it back. Like, it was like, here's some money for the recording and that we'll recoup in, you know, record sales.
I mean, was it less than $10,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they don't really have any skin in the game, you know? They aren't really... you know, I've seen this happen quite a bit. And actually, I was just talking with Dan Young on my last podcast about how when they went to Fueled by Ramen, they refused Fueled by Ramen's offer to buy out their publishing. And I kind of, you know, and it's kind of a similar thing in the sense that, well, if the label if they haven't, you know, dropped, you know, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on you, they might just be in kind of a wait and see pattern. Like, well, we're not financially, you know, pot committed right now, so let's just kind of see how people react to the stuff, and if it seems to be taking off, then we'll start throwing some money in it. Whereas, I don't know, like, maybe had they, you know, had to spend $20,000, $30,000 recording your record, they'd be like, you know, we need to make our money back on this. We need to like push this and make it happen. Like, there's so many of those little factors I feel like that are in play with stuff like this. It's a really tough thing, but I find it crazy that they couldn't break Big Chomper, because multiple times I'm sorry we're sticking on Big Chomper so much, but that song was like such a big part of everything for me. Where I believe I was the link between you guys and Chiodos, right?
I mean, that's my understanding.
I was doing the Chiodos record I was doing with them at the time. I think I'd just finished up your mixes. Like, they were, you know, it was kind of around that time, and I was in Kentucky with them. We were recording a record, and I was downstairs in the morning drinking coffee. I had my laptop, and I was just playing Big Chomper, like, just through my laptop speakers at the table. And Craig, the lead singer from Chiodos, he's sitting there, and he just like perks up, like he like looks over at me, and he's like, "What is that?" You know, and I was like, I'm like, right? I'm like, how good is this? You know, and he immediately latched right onto it. And I mean, I think they put you on some shows, and I think he tried to, you know, help you guys out a few times here and there. But it was those kind of reactions that I'm like, I felt like something has to happen here. And so I personally feel like the label missed an opportunity there. I mean, I also remember hearing it on our big radio station up here is 107.7 The End. It's kind of like our, you know, K-Rock of LA, I guess, for Seattle. And the only time I've in my entire career, like, where I got in my car one day and just like turned on the car, and I was driving down the road, and like the radio host is like, and here is, you know, we got Warped Tour coming up, and this is Kevin Lyman's favorite new band, and it's Dr. Manhattan, and that song comes on, and I was like freaking, I was like, yes, I was like, it's gonna happen.
That's so funny. I had no idea. I didn't even know that we ever got played on any sort of, like, aside from college radio. Like, I never knew that that sort of thing happened, and that's a bummer. Like, there was, I mean, I don't know that there is a way of knowing. Like, hey, did you know that you were played on this radio station and it was announced this way? Like, I don't know that there's ways to find that out, but just hearing that makes me smile.
Well, on top of the fact that like you got played on the end, you got like an intro, like in a really good one. Like they're like, this is in they. I remember them specifically saying like, this is Kevin Lyman's like favorite new band. Now, and didn't he do some sort of like, didn't he get you on Warped Tour for like the whole tour or something that year?
So we played in 2008, and in 2007 we entered like the enter Warped Tour and be a band winner thing. And a band that we knew had won it before. They're called the Felix Culpa, and they're from Illinois, like Rockford area, or they were at the time. And they had won it and then gone and played Warped Tour and done like a couple weeks. And one of the guys in the band, Tristan, I'd been talking to, I was like, how do we do it? How do we enter in there? He's like, well, I know one of the guys, like I can pass along your music to him. And you can win one of two ways. You can win by votes. And I was like, well, we'll never win by votes. Like, there's no way. And he's like, or you can be picked by one of the judges. I was like, okay, cool. So we sent in our music, and we were one of the 4 winners. And I remember actually I was dating my wife at the time. I remember being at University of Illinois visiting her and getting a call like, all right, you're in the top 10. So we'll call back in a couple weeks and let you know. And then like another time I get the call, all right, you're one of the top 4. And we were losing our minds because it was like, we won like $10,000 in Guitar Center money, and we got some legit
really.
Yeah. We got a bunch of gear. Most of what we got is like travel cases for like the amps, and I mean I got a new drum kit, which is the kit that I still have to this day. And on top of that, Ernie Ball for like a year gave us strings, and Matt and Adam both got to make custom Ernie Ball guitars. Like it was pretty sweet. Like Adam made a fretless bass guitar. I think he brought it. I think he recorded it on Jam Dreams a little bit. That like orange guitar.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
And Matt made a guitar too. So it was like we definitely got the sweet end of the deal for that. And then we played Chicago because of that. Because of the battle, we played Chicago's date like as a part of the battle. And then because we were one of the 4 winners, it was like, okay, now you'll get a chance to be on Warped Tour. And they never said in what capacity. Like I said, our buddy's band got 2 weeks to play. So we're like, oh, so it might be like 2 weeks. And then we were hearing through the grapevine, oh, Kevin's really into you. Like they're looking at putting you on the entire tour. And we were like flipping out. We're like, what? We just went from playing one day in Chicago to next year playing the whole thing. And then we got flown out to LA to play the Key Club, I think, and it was like the 4 band winners get to open up for MXPX, and they gave us MySpace was a big sponsor, so each band got a bunch of MySpace stuff. So if you look on YouTube, you can see the video of us playing the Warped Tour finalists 2008 California Key Club thing, and we're all wearing MySpace shit. We just put all of it on. Like it's like MySpace shirts and bandanas and all this shit. Like, and I don't know that there was anyone there from MySpace because they were a part of MySpace Records helped put out the self-titled album. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Now it's starting to jog my brain, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they were a part of it. So I don't know that anyone was there, but they probably just, I don't know if they looked at us like, oh, look at how much they love MySpace, or if they're like, these assholes, like they're totally just being such dicks about this right now. But so we went and played there, and then we met. I think we'd already met Kaminsky and at some show and talked to him, and I think he said to us like, "Yeah, Lyman's like he really likes you guys." And then we met him. Did we meet him there? I think we met him there, or we met some high up assistant. And at the time, they were saying like, you know, he's listed the bands he wants for Warped Tour, you know, like no effects, these bands. But the first band he said was you guys. Like he wants you guys on Warped Tour for 2008. And we, you know, you could have, we were up on air, like we were floating, like you know, we weren't touching the ground for weeks. And then I don't know why it happened. I don't know how it all breaks down, but we ended up getting half of 2008 Warped Tour. And I think it was I think it might have been the second half. So it was like 6 weeks that we were on. But yeah, we heard a bunch. Kevin Lyman says you're his favorite band, and we went and played that show, and it was awesome. And then we did Warped Tour, and that was 2008, and it was incredible. It was so much fun. But that was all that time. 2008, like 2007, 2008, and probably into 2009 was like the time of like all this cool stuff happening, all these people telling us like, oh, you're this person's favorite band. Oh, this band just heard you. Casey Bates just showed you this band. And what's the saddest part about this whole thing is me asking you, have you ever been paid by us for anything? You're the one who's probably the most like, you're the reason that anything happened for our band. And I don't know if you're aware, because we got put on probably every tour, almost 80% of the tours we were put on was because you showed us to some band and they brought us out. and then
That's awesome.
And then you mixed our self-titled, and then you recorded Jam Dreams for free. So basically, of all the people who got paid for anything we ever did, you're last on the list for the amount you've made and the most you've done. So that just breaks my heart just talking about that. So I have to send you some sort of fruit basket or cookie bouquet or something.
Oh, dude, no. Your self-titled record is all I ever need.
Well, I can send you that on vinyl.
I love Jam Dreams, but I have the, I just have that tie to that first record, and it's crazy, right? Because you're talking about like Kevin Lyman, the guy that runs Warped Tour, saying you are like his favorite band at the time, and
yep.
There's something, I don't think we're gonna get to the bottom of it on this podcast, but some sort of disconnect between that sort of reaction, like insane, over the moon reactions from people, and then nothing happening. It's bizarre.
That was our career, was bands or people who are high up telling us really cool things and saying, and even our friends in bands being like, I remember we did a tour with the Gay Blades right before the Warped Tour thing. It was like we did that tour and then went on Warped Tour. And I remember them, James and Quinn, it's a two-man band. They looked at us. It was like the last night. We were in a hotel together. We made this goofy video just playing songs on acoustic guitar. And they looked at us and they're like, this is it, you guys. Like, like this is it now. Like, you're going to be a huge band. And so that was the impression we were getting
that's so sad.
from everyone. Everyone was saying, like, when you do Warped Tour, people are going to eat you up, and that's that. Like, then you're off. And so we were constantly being told, like, getting prepped up for this giant boost, and then just nothing. And I can't really complain, because when I think about it, I'm like, look at all this cool shit we got to do.
Yeah.
Like there's no regret about it, but it was just constantly being like, all right, here we go. And then like crickets. And we're like, what happened? Like, what was the thing that happened?
Well, now tell me, okay, so you're on Warped Tour for 6 weeks.
Yep.
Are you, like, what's the reaction by fans? Like, are you getting the same sense from people that are seeing you guys play every night? Like, or do you see that there's a lack of interest? Like, where on this tour, like, how are you feeling about everything?
It was both, honestly, because we started in Boston and then worked our way through the Midwest and then went to California. And the start was good. The Midwest was awesome. Like, all the Midwest shows we killed. And then towards the end, it just died off because we were, at the time, there was the Hurley stage. And the deal was supposed to be that we were going to play the Hurley stage the whole tour. And then I think as different bands got added and dropped, then we were getting moved. Mm-hmm. And we played the Ernie Ball stage. We played the main stage once, but we were the first band of the day, so no one was really there. And
that's
then
pretty cool, though.
It was awesome. I mean, it didn't matter. Like, it was so much fun to play the main stage, or one of the main stages. And and then at the end, just like at least the last week, if not the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we played the Ernie Ball stage. And yeah, it was just, something was happening at the end. We're like, no, yeah, we can't get people to come. Like, and it was such a hard time too, because we were splitting a bus with Bring Me the Horizon at the time. And
whoa, really?
Yeah, and we didn't know. So that's a funny thing too, because we didn't know that was like their boost into America. Like, that was their first big thing. No one on the tour knew how big they were, but they were drawing easily the most people, 3 out of 4 dates every time.
Yeah.
They were crushing it, and they were making less than us. I think our guarantee was like $300 a show, and theirs was like, $150 or $200, because I don't think Warped Tour really understood what they were getting with them.
Wow.
Yeah, and eventually that stopped because they were drawing the most, and I think Kevin got hip to it and was like, all right, let's pay this band accordingly. But so we were doing really well in the Midwest. And
did they ever think about paying you even less?
Yeah, I think that's what happened. They're like, oh, they're not doing so well. Ernie Ball stage or parking lot? Yeah, just parking lot. That's good for
They hand you $300 and then pull two of the $100 bills back and hand it to Bring Me the Horizon.
There's always a thing that I think of when I think of a joke like that. And it's an episode from Third Rock from the Sun where John Lithgow's at dinner and the waiter, he puts a stack of dollar bills on the table and he goes, for every time you screw up, I'm taking one from your tip.
I remember that.
So throughout the episode, he's just taking them. But that's such a good visualization because that's exactly what I think of. But so towards the end of the tour, that's when, and to be honest, so we split a bus with them and it was incredible, like lots of fun, but it was way out of our league financially. And when we did the Midwest dates, we were making money and doing good, selling merch. But then those last 2 weeks, people weren't coming, people weren't buying merch, and we had like moths coming out of our pockets. But we still had to come up with half the gas. So we were just like sweating. And to their credit, they were doing really well. They were crushing it in merch and having huge crowds, and they helped us out handfuls of times. Like they covered gas completely when we couldn't do anything. So
that's cool to hear.
They were they were really nice guys, super funny, and like we got along with them very well, and they also bailed us out a handful of times. So that was like, if we had done it with another band and if they weren't doing as well or they weren't as cool about it, I don't know what kind of situation we were in. I mean, we would have been in. And when we left Warped Tour, we were in debt to the driver. I think he had to pay out of pocket for gas, and then we just ended up having to, like, weeks later or months later, like, pay him back money because the driver we had left and we got a different driver, and he was super cool, but he knew, like, we couldn't afford it, so he paid out of pocket to get us back to Tennessee so we could get to our van to get home. And yeah, it was bad towards the end. Like, we were trying to have fun, but we were so stressed by the money of it all that it was really hard.
So you ended up paying him back?
Yeah, we did. And he was such a nice guy too. We had a blast with him. The first driver, I don't know, he was just kind of a Goomba. Like he was just one of these guys that you could tell, like, he just totally got off on, like, being a driver for bands, and was like, he wore a headset and would, like, be driving and talking to bands he managed, and he was just like, I don't know, he was just a goofball. And even Bring Me the Horizon the whole time was just, like, cracking jokes at him and making fun of him. So we were all just laughing. But then the bus, like, the last day of Warped Tour, the bus broke down. We were running late. Like, I think it burst a couple tires. So, and that driver just left the tour. So this other driver flew in, and it was this whole debacle. But his name was Sten. He bailed us out. He drove us back and then paid out of pocket. And we just ended up, like, you know, sending him little like envelopes with nickels and dimes, and I'm like, here you go, sir, thank you.
How do I get that arrangement? I should have worked out something ahead of time.
Yeah. You want the nickel and dime envelope package? We can start that now, and in 2,000 to 3,000 years, we'll have the Jam Dreams album paid off.
Oh man.
Yeah. That I think the Warped Tour experience was like a good kind of overlook of, like, not like what happened to us, but like all this cool stuff, and then also like this underlying feeling of like, oh no, like this isn't really happening, or bad stuff's coming, or there's just trouble ahead. And not personally, we didn't have problems, but like, yeah, all like opportunities that were falling through, or, you know, things that just weren't happening that we assumed were happening because, you know, our manager or like booking agent or whoever was like, yeah, we got this thing lined up, it's good to go, and then just nothing.
Do you think your live show was too weird for people?
Probably.
I mean, I love your guys' live show, but it's nuts, and I'm almost wondering if it was just too much, you know,
probably
even for the Warped Tour crowd.
It could be, but again, it was this thing of like, when it worked, it really worked, and when it didn't, it didn't. And we were seeing bands on Warped Tour do this, like, the same cookie cutter set, like the same banter, like every time, and it made us sick. We're like, fuck these bands, like, we hate this. We know there's people out here who hate this too. Let's be the opposite. So and I think that was what we just made our band about, was like, we want to make that one person out there just laugh and have fun and lose their mind, instead of catering. Like,
I think we just got to the bottom of it.
We never said that. We never said let's make. I mean, we always said there were shows where there was 5 people there, so we had to, like, make those 5 people really get into it. So our whole thing was like, we may not win this whole crowd over, but if we get that one person, like, that's a success. And I think that's just kind of
no, it's not.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
I've learned now that it is not a success. And
you're like there's all right, guys. There are 10,000 people here today. We just need to get that one, and it's a success.
and I think that part of it was like, because we were thinking like that in the beginning, and things started going well for us. We were like, oh, so this is working. Like, let's keep that mentality. Let's be fun, be crazy on stage, like win the crowds over, win the bands over, and we'll keep doing what we're doing. But at some point, at some level, it just stopped working, or like the business side hadn't caught up with it, or it wasn't selling quick enough, so the people who were behind us just were like losing patience or started dropping off. Or so I don't know that our band was ever like, I think in their eyes they were like, okay, self-titled album, Big Chomper or Gunpowder on the radio, and that's that. We can chill and it's going to do its thing. But I don't know that our band was ever like that kind of band. I think we were always like, give us 5 to 7 years and we'll build our fan base, and then we'll have something really strong. But no one has time for that in that business. They want to pick up a band who's cooking and ride the wave. They don't want to like sit with you for 5 years and just wait.
Well, and plus the pattern I'm seeing or hearing from you is anytime something was like kind of going good, you're like, we got to stop doing this. You're like too many people are liking what we're doing. We want to do something different.
Oh, musically?
You what?
Musically, do you mean?
I mean, and almost everything. I mean, like just kind of looking at it, you guys, even like Jam Dreams is such a different record than the first record. Like you're constantly like pushing against what is working. Like because you want to keep pushing it. I mean, maybe that's part. I mean, that's got to be on some level part of it. But
absolutely, every one of our albums is, aside from our very first EP into self-titled, every other album is like a jump in a different direction. And even within albums, there are such different variations. Like the self-titled and like Baton Rouge is like a song that doesn't necessarily fit on there, but still does. And like Jam Dreams, there's Mrs. Stewart, which is like a rap song. So like there's just like we listened to so much stuff and got into so many things. It just we never wanted to feel pigeonholed, so we just wanted to write all the different kinds of songs we liked. And I think that just made it too hard to like, if you're gonna like one of our songs, that doesn't dictate that you'll like all of our songs, because they're all just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So business wise, we're probably not the best band, but put us on a stage, we'll have fun and people will have a good time, and that's as far as that goes.
you guys write incredible music and you put on an incredible show.
Thank you.
But you try to alienate everybody.
Well, we never tried, but we certainly inadvertently. I think that's the sad little thing of this all is like, we never tried to alienate everyone. We were always like, we hate shows with barriers. Like, we want to play on the floor. Like, we want to be in the mix. We want to play. We want the crowd. We always have the crowd come on stage. Like, we always wanted it to be a very inclusive band, but I think the majority of people almost want a distance, or like feel safe, like being the spectator or listening. Like, music's a personal thing, so I think some people want to feel like they can join the band, and other people just want to listen to it and like have their own personal experience. So I don't know if maybe our band was just too like abrasive or like too intense, and people were like, ooh, like I kind of just want to watch this and enjoy it. Like, I don't want to feel like, I don't know, like it's a little too hectic or something. I don't know.
I think the minority is I want to be a part of this band. I want to, like dive in and really figure this out. But I think it's the majority that it's just a personal, like they just want to listen to it. They don't, they want to have their own distance, or be able to create their own distance between whatever it is. And, there's something to that, I think, I don't know.
And I never thought about it. This is typically how I get through things in my personal life or otherwise. Like, as soon as I start talking about it, then these ideas kind of spew out, and I'm like, oh shit, maybe that's how it was really happening. Maybe that's how I was really feeling about this. Yeah. And I never got to say it. Now I'm just babbling it out, and that's what it is. But I think that's honestly was a big part of it. And because we were a band of people who liked bands who were wild and intense. Like, we loved Foxy Shazam when we saw them. We loved the Hives. We loved bands with this energy that, like, you couldn't ignore. So we wanted to be that, and we wanted people to just not forget us. And I think it worked on some level, but also maybe, some people just wanted to go to a show, enjoy it, and then leave it, not feel like, I don't know, they're joining.
They still didn't. It didn't break.
Right.
It really didn't. Like I mean, they've worked with some of the best people in the industry, and it's. I mean, so have you guys. And it just did not break. And it's you and Foxy to me are the biggest mysteries since I've been doing this. Like your two bands, I can't figure out why. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of figuring it out now that I'm talking to you. But
getting to the bottom of this thing. Yeah, when we saw Foxy play at South by Southwest, people were losing their minds. We were like, what is this band? How do we tour with them? Like, we want to be a part of this. Like, this is the kind of movement we want to be into. And yeah, similar thing, like you said.
You know what's weird is I recorded their record without ever seeing them live.
That is really weird, because I feel like when I listen to that record, Introducing, right?
Yeah.
When I listen to that, that's like, oh, this feels like you're at the show. This is like the beginning feels, it's like a crowd, like you're getting pumped up, and the first song is real energetic. So my impression, my assumption when I listened to it is like, oh yeah, he went to a show, checked this stuff out, got the feel, and was like, all right, I know exactly what to do with this album.
No, dude, it was like I went to the show after we did the record, and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Would you have done anything differently, do you think, with that album?
I don't know. I was really happy with how that record came out at the time.
That album's awesome.
And, even now, it's interesting listening to that record, because I pulled it up the other day, and, like, I'm hoping I'm going to get Eric on to do a podcast about that record. And it's... They're like, half the songs are... Like, it had been a long time since I listened to them, and half of the songs to me are like a general listener can listen to them, but the other half are like, there's so much weird stuff going on that, like, it even threw me for a loop a few times, because I forgot, like, what was going to happen next, and I was like, whoa, that went to a weird place. And I don't know, that's probably why the band, it's like I was too close to it almost, like I couldn't help them.
Gotcha.
Break out to more of a general audience. But I don't know, at the time that record was quite a departure from the one before that. The one before that was very yelly and stuff, and this one had a lot more singy prettiness to it. And I mean, I might have pushed them as far as they could have gone to be more melodic on Introducing, but I don't know.
Well, that's a prime example of, like, an album that still holds up to me. When I hear songs, like, if I'm putting on the shuffle and one of those songs come on, like, it brings me back, and I'm like, I just get pumped up. I think that's a good summary of that band, is that album. Like, if someone had never heard of Foxy, I'd show them that album over any of the others.
Yeah, it's I think it's still, like, just as a fan, I think it's my favorite of their records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. This kind of gets me into an area of some little questions I was thinking of. So, was your first album a Gatsby album?
My first album was a This Providence record.
Okay.
And then my second record was Gatsby's Volcano. Well, I should say the very first real thing I did was the Gatsby's EP called In the Land of Lost Monsters.
Oh, baby, it looks to me as something big and juicy I can't sink my teeth into, and I will treat you nice. Oh, filthy beast can't touch my integrity.
was This Providence record, and then it was Gatsby's Volcano, and that all happened in the first year of me recording.
That's a pretty crazy first year.
Oh, it was nuts. I mean, it was. Oh, I didn't take any days off. It was just craziness. You know, I was really, the way I look back on it now is I was in the right place at the right time,
Sure.
and it, you know, having Gatsby's American Dream clicking at the time in Seattle, a lot of Seattle bands looking up to them, and then me being close with them and working with them on stuff, it just got me so much local work, and then I turned a lot of those local bands into, you know, I got them record deals, which turned into records, and, you know, and then kind of pushed out of, you know, really kind of lost touch with the Seattle scene after a few years and just was doing, you know, records from everywhere, but I'm hoping to get back into it now. We'll see.
Awesome. So when you look back on those albums, like when you're listening back on them, or any of them along the way, and I'm sure that's not easy to answer because there's so many albums, but like, were there things that, like, if you listen to those first albums, like, I could have done so many. I mean, obviously you could have, but like, are there like key moments of like, amateur hour, like I could have easily done this one thing and I would have saved myself like 4 hours of work? Or like, are you ever like smacking your head against the wall thinking of things you could have fixed, or do you feel pretty good about the albums you've done?
I still feel really good about Volcano, Gatsby's.
It's a solid album.
Yeah, and just from a production standpoint, there's not a lot that bugs me about it even now. And part of that is that, I mean, we took like 3 months to do that record. Like, it was one of those things where it was like I set aside an enormous amount of time because it was my first real record. Like, where, I mean, I know I'd done a record before that, but this is one that was on Fearless Records, a real label that was going to get, you know, they were going to get a real push and stuff, and it was so important to me that it had to be amazing. And so, like, I just, you know, I went in debt doing it. Like, I just didn't care. I wanted to just spend every minute of every day focusing. And I don't know, I think just by sheer work on it is probably the reason that it still kind of holds up for me. It's not a realistic, like, work schedule for anybody, but I don't know, because there's records after that to me don't hold up nearly as well, like polish wise and just production wise.
Yeah.
So, you know, because they were like a normal, you know, here's the budget and you've got 3 weeks to make it kind of thing. And, you know, so, you know, there's, some things about that record that bug me. I would definitely would have done differently. Like drum, just some tone stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, I don't know, like specifically things that I've figured out. It's just you get so much faster at things over time. I mean, I can't even. For me to edit drums on a song back then was like, you know, like a day a song almost. Like it would just take me forever. You know, and depending on the style of music now, it's like I'm just like in the Matrix when I'm doing it. I'm just flying around, just moving shit, and it, you know, I can edit a song in a couple hours, if not less. But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah, it did. I think it was too hard. It was too wide a question to be like, of all the albums, you know, what are all the problems you've had with everything? No, I was just curious of like, can you listen back objectively and be like, you know what, that's a good album, or are you like nitpicking like, oh, that fucking cymbal hit, like, is it too hard to like step back from it since you put time into them? There's always a period, so I'll do a record and I will like be in the thick of it. I'll be listening to it just nonstop so much, like especially if I'm mixing it and stuff, and then, you know, as it's coming out and getting released, I'm still kind of listening to it because it's fun, because you're hearing what other people are saying about it and you're kind of in it. And then like you get to a point where you're like, I'm over, you know, like I've listened to this record a million times and and then you'll go. I mean, most of the records I will go years without listening to, and so when I listen back now on like anything I did, prior to 3 or 4 years ago, it's probably literally been that long since I've heard it, and I do hear it like a fan almost. Like I don't hear it. I don't hear me in it really, and so when I do listen to it, I can immediately go like, that sounds good to me, like that sounds good, or I'll be like, man, that does not sound good. Like that sounds like shit, and I'll be like, man, why did I think that sounded good, at the time, and where it's like so clear to me now, I'm like, oh, that's and I don't know,
That's good though. I'm always interested to. Because as a musician, it's hard to listen objectively to anything you do. But if you give it some time, then you can be like, oh, I'm a fan of this now. Or, oh, yeah, I could have skipped over this. Or I understand why, at the time someone said not to do this. Or it's a little easier to be objective about your art.
I've gotten so much better with age and time and to...
Looking wise.
Yeah. Thank you. No, like you're so precious about stuff in the beginning, when you're younger. And I mean, Bobby and I have talked about this too, because we've been making music together more recently, and it's, if he sends me something now and I listen to it and I'll just straight up come back to him honest. I'm like, I don't really think that works. Yeah. And he's not bummed out. Like, if anything, he's actually like encouraged by it. He's like, thank you. He's like, thank you for telling me that, like, I'll just I'll try something else, instead of being like, that's my part, I wrote it, it's like I put my heart and soul into it. Well, if you're sending it to someone because you want to hear their opinion, let them, let them say it. And so when it, I don't know, the older I've gotten, the more it's easier for me to be more objective and see things kind of from the outside. And even I'm quicker now when I'm currently working on something to be able to take a step back and go, I don't know. I don't know if that's just something that happens over time. It probably, it's got to be, but, and I don't know, age, just getting older. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. I'm currently looking at your Wikipedia page, and I'm seeing all kinds of, tons of albums, but one sticks out to me, In Excess.
Oh.
How does that?
Yeah, I'm good friends with those guys. No big deal. So this is probably something I've never even talked about. I don't even know how. That Wikipedia page is bizarre to me. I don't know who created that or who keeps it up, because I think it's pretty. I haven't been on there in a while, but I believe it's pretty accurate and up to the date. The one thing I remember, this is a little bit off topic, but like when I was doing the Chiodos record, one of the guys, Matt, the bass player, he was on his computer and he's like, dude, you have a Wikipedia page. And I was like, really? I was like, and he shows me his Wikipedia page, and it had a picture. I think it had a picture of me, or maybe it didn't have a picture of me. But I'm like, dude, like I gave him a picture of me, like I was like doing like a Street Fighter fireball like pose in a picture, and he knows a little bit like Photoshop stuff, and I'm like Photoshop a fireball on the end of my hands here and upload it to Wikipedia. And he did, and within like 24 hours, my page was erased.
Oh god!
Like, I don't even know who's keeping track of it, because anyone can post to Wikipedia, right?
Right. That's what I thought.
It was the funniest thing, and I'm like, I was so frustrated because I'm literally the person of this Wikipedia page, and I am uploading the photo I want to be on this page, and you guys took it down.
Excuse me, Joker. This is a serious website where we take our information very seriously, and you cannot produce such filth to be put on here. No, it's me. That was me who did that. That's my picture.
I know. Anyways, no. So In Excess, like all right. So I have a friend. His name's John Lulo, and he is a manager. I think he's still managing. But what band did he play for? He was a friend of Bobby's from Gatsbys, and we did some work together on some stuff. And he went into managing, and I don't know, probably 6-7 years ago, and he started, I can't remember the management company, but they had the band Train on their management company, and this is before Train had their Soul Sister Resurgence song.
Right.
And they're like, I mean, he was a new guy there, and they're like, here, just take Train. We don't, they haven't done anything in years, like just, you can have this band, you can work with them. Well, I mean, it's just talk about timing, because he signs on with this band. They release the single, that Soul Sister song. It goes to #1 song in the entire world. They become like the biggest band again. And so anyways, the lead singer, Pat Monahan, he lives in Seattle, and he needed a place to track demos and stuff, whatever. And John hits me up, and he's like, hey, I got Pat Monahan. He lives in Seattle. He's in the band Train. He needs to work on some stuff. Can you use your studio, or, and can you engineer, produce with him or whatever? And I was like, sure. Yeah. And it's so funny, because I'm not, especially at that time, I was not super up on pop culture, like what exactly was going on. So Pat comes over and this is that old big house that we recorded at. So it's just a little, it's not an impressive studio, but so anyways, he comes over and we meet and we're talking, we sit down, and I'm getting stuff set up, and I turn around to him, I'm like, so what's going on with Train these days? I'm just thinking of like Drops of Jupiter, those songs that were like from the late 90s or something like that. And he was really nice to me. He looks at me like I'm joking or something. He's like, we have the #1 song on iTunes right now. And he it wasn't like a dick thing, the way he said it, but it was just like hilarious. And I was like, oh god.
That's great.
And, oh man. So we worked together a few times, and the band In Excess was doing a greatest hits record where they were re-recording their greatest hits and then having famous people sing those songs.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a song on that record that they wanted Pat to sing on, and they sent me the tracks. Pat came over, and I recorded all his, edited all of his vocals and comped him and stuff. And so that is the credit I got for the stuff, was doing that. A funny thing about that was,
you showed him Dr. Manhattan, and he's ready to have us open for Train. You shouldn't have.
You know what? That would not have surprised me if something like that would have happened. With all the shit that happened to you guys, it would not surprise me if Train took you guys out on tour.
They'd kick us off in like 2 days. Like, what the fuck is this band?
Oh man.
Anyways, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No. That's my Train /
That's good.
Excess story.
That's a good one. Now your Wikipedia page is strong, man. Like I forgot how many of these albums that I got into, like the Gatsby stuff, which I was late to getting into. Like my buddy showed me Gatsby in high school, and I was like, not for me. I think he showed me Ribbons and Sugar, and I was like, I don't know about this. And then, too funny, then this all comes around, and I tell that friend, I'm like, I started a band with the singer of Gatsby. He's like, you motherfucker! Like I showed you that band, you didn't even like them. But yeah, Foxy, the number 12 Looks Like You. That album I did want to ask you about. So that we almost toured with them. #1, we almost did 2 weeks with them, I think, which would have just been. I think we should have done it just to do it. I think it was around Christmas, and it was snowing a ton, and we were just like, oh, we don't want to get into an accident and die. But I have a couple buddies who love that band, and I would get into them a little bit, but I'd be turned off by them because I was like, I don't know, this is too much. But Mongrel, that album, I still will listen to today because I think it's such a I think it's your touch to it, but it's also just their best stuff in terms of like drumming. They have a really solid drummer. Technically, I can hear everything. Like everything's mixed well, and like their songwriting felt like it had kind of like come to a culmination of like, oh, this is what this band was supposed to be. Like this album represents them.
I met the band for the first time like the day they came to the studio to record. I'm trying to remember who approached me about doing that record, because it was very different than anything else I'd ever done. And I remember I met the band, and they're going to kill me. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of their guitar player, and he's just a fantastic, insanely good guitar player. But I remember like the day we met, and one of the comments he made was, "Yeah, I don't really like distortion." And I'm thinking like, what? Like, wait.
Have you heard your band? You don't like distortion? Like, that doesn't make sense.
You're like the heaviest, craziest band. But that comment to me feels like, when you listen, I mean, the production on Mongrel is like probably to me my most interesting production on any record I've done. In that it is so weird for a band like that. Like, and him saying, giving me that comment about no distortion, because he was really into clean tones. Like, there's quite a few clean tones on the record, but even the distorted stuff has it's like a weird clean distortion. Like, it wasn't like, the stuff's not just, it's not balls to the wall, like huge distortion with crazy trashy cymbals going. Like, it's a clean sounding record for as chaotic and nuts as it is. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And John, the drummer, is just one of the best drummers I've ever worked with.
He is a beast. I've watched all kinds of YouTube videos on him. He is insane.
Well, and I remember recording all his stuff. Like, there's no editing on that. Like, there's no beat detective stuff. Like, that's just him playing. I mean, and I mean, from what I remember, is very minimal, like, comping, or I don't even think they played to a click track. I'm pretty sure they didn't.
Probably not. Makes sense.
I don't think we played to a click track. And I mean, so it was like, if there might not have been any comping. It was, if anything, I think maybe if he screwed up, we punched in some parts. But I mean, that's just him, and that's just everybody on that record. It's like, without having a click track and a grid to edit stuff is not, it's a pain. And they're all just great players. Like, that's just like the thing is, everyone in that band is fantastic. And so I really enjoy listening to that record. I'll pop that on every once in a while and just kind of rock out to it.
All right, so there's the first half of my interview with Casey Bates. If you come back next Wednesday, I'll post the second half of the interview, where we talk about recording Jam Dreams, and a lot of good stories in there about that whole process. So until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you here next Wednesday.